build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Oh, well, they gave me bars, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober as...
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty. This is episode 135. We've got the band back together, almost. No Brian still, but Craig, you're back with us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me back on after a long hiatus.
No worries. It does look like you shrunk since you were away.
It's cold.
It's cold. Got John on as well. John, how are you doing?
Aye, pretty good. I was just because we're having a wee chat about Thundercats before we come on there, I was having a look for Chitara, who was the only one that I could remember from it, and apparently quite a few women cosplay as Chitara, so I was having I was almost having a wee stroke at it, to be honest.
Is that one that you're going to revisit later?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll send you the pictures. In fact, I might start tweeting them out while we're here.
Quite right. We were, for the listeners, we were talking about Thundercats, and this is actual factual. The Thundercats theme tune is the most motivational piece of music, or most motivational theme tune ever written. That's fact. So go and listen to it if you need to give yourself a wee lift in the morning. Just find it on YouTube, stick it on. That's it. You'll be smashing it at work or hitting personal bests at the gym or whatever. All because of Lionel and that. And Colin, happy birthday as well, birthday boy.
Thanks very much. I got christened it with getting COVID, so it was lovely. Positive test this morning, first thing.
Today.
So it was lovely. Aye.
Was that in quarantine for 7 days?
Not till next Tuesday, end of Tuesday, including Tuesday, so the 15th. Aye, which is handy because of the appointment we've got on the 16th, isn't it? 17th, which we've not said anything about yet.
And I'm thinking it's a good job I never spent the day with you on Saturday.
I know. Lucky you went home after the match. You were sitting 4 seats away from me as well, so you were all right. You're not within range.
Yeah, I think it was all right that distance. That was one of the questions we asked. On the tannoy, he comes on at Easter Road, and Barry says, "Please maintain social distancing." You're looking, you're going, everybody's in their own seats, like did the social distance. Well, to be fair, Easter Road was pretty empty, so we probably were socially distanced, just no from each other.
Did we ever find out what Barry said at half time?
Oh no! If anybody heard the Longbangers shout out on Saturday, text in at 80295, or you could tweet us, or Barry, if you're listening, you could message us and tell us what you said, because we were busy blethering, and when we heard the podcast get mentioned, and we're like, oh, the fuck was that? But we appreciated it anyway. It's always nice to get a wee shout out, so you can keep doing that as well, Barry, if you're listening. Right, what have we got to talk about tonight? Hibs against St Mirren, another defeat, another blank for the strikers, or for the whole team, in fact. So we'll talk about that, but we'll also go on to talk about the state of Hibs at the moment, good or bad. Take in things like the structure of the club, or the job that Ron Gordon's doing. I know we did like a whole feature on that not long ago, so we'll probably not over-egg that part of it. And then whether or not the transfer window did what it needed to do, and so on. And we've got some points that folk have sent us in that we'll cover off as well. So we won't spend too long on the St Mirren game, probably because you've heard it all before. If you listened to our podcast after the Livingston game, you came what's coming. So, Craig, you said you'd done a wee bit of research, mate, so I'll start with you. What was your take on the game?
My research wasn't actually into the game. We'll get on to that.
All right.
I was going to say, you never actually specified the research at the start. You just said, I've been doing something.
Wasn't even about football.
You've been Googling Thundercats as well.
But no, the game, to be honest, I thought we didn't play terrible. And large spells. It's as you say, it's the same old thing. In front of goal, I don't know if it's a bit of luck or it's just a bit of composure that we're lacking, but we just can't seem to put it in the net. I think overall, I like the way that Maloney's implementing his game plan. I think we'll go more into this, later on in the podcast, because people seem to be wanting loads of different things for Hibs. Like, you know, we oust a manager because we don't like his style of football. But with the exception of when he was ousted, you know, his win to lose ratio was decent. We oust him for a different style of football. A manager comes in, young, inspiring. He seems to be wanting to play that passing, kind of aggressive style of football that we like to see at Hibs, and it's just not quite clicked yet. So, I mean, yes, I'm disappointed by the result. I'm disappointed that the final third aren't helping out the rest of the team in the sense that, you know, we're not scoring goals. I would like to say that we're defending a lot better because I think overall we are. But, you know, again, one poor slip up in the game gives away a stupid goal, which is annoying. I don't know. Like, I'm upset with the loss, but I can see what he's trying to do. But yeah, one of those things. That.
And John, you mentioned you'd done like extensive tactical analysis on the game on Saturday. So, what did you think of it? What was your findings?
I think the extensive tactical analysis was me sat at home scratching my balls, to be perfectly honest. What did I think of the game? I thought the game was, to be perfectly honest, I sat with my face in my hand kind of cupped like this for most of the second half because I thought by and large it was a pretty boring game. I thought I saw some glimpses of what Hibs are capable of and what Maloney's trying to implement. I think Craig was right. I think I agree with him that defensively we're looking a bit better. And I think we're going to be liable to concede goals like we did if we continue to play the way that we did, but I don't think that's necessarily a reason to stop playing that way. I don't know if there's anything else. I think I've got a theory, actually. I was thinking about this earlier. It dawned on me, and people can tell me that I'm talking shit or not, but I think one of the reasons that people are feeling the way that they are about Hibs at the moment, to echo what Craig was saying about like style of football, change of manager, blah, blah, blah. If you think back to Lennon's final 6 months in charge and what happened after him in terms of Heckingbottom, it was, you know, kind of salvage a season. Then his debut season didn't work out, and then Jack Ross came in and had to salvage a season, and then COVID hit, so we never actually got to see Hibs finish third, achieve Europe, and there was obviously like a number of high-profile disappointments then. Jack Ross's next season didn't quite work out, and now we're just going through like another bit of a shitty, bleak spell. Like there's not been a lot to be excited about for a long time, and I think that's probably just. It's not even grinding folks' gears anymore. Like, folk are just fucking ground down and they're looking for a wee bit of excitement. And to be perfectly honest, the one thing that I did get excited about on Saturday, you know how folks say, like, there's players that get you on the edge of their seat? It wasn't when Jasper came on, it was when Jasper created a chance, fade down just in front of the famous five. I can't remember exactly what it was that he'd done. It was like a turn, it was like the ball from behind him, he kind of like flicked it through his legs or whatever. And that actually got me like sat up for a second, like, what the fuck did he just do there? That looked outstanding. And that was a wee moment's excitement. But by that point, like Hibs were chasing the game. It wasn't, and the game just kind of petered out. And especially like one of the things that made it really fucking shit as well was the St Mirren players' antics. So you had like umpteen players like going down, falling down, chucking the ball away, the keeper fucking celebrating in front of the famous five at the end, like they'd won something spectacular. All those things just like accumulate, and like I say, it's just a bit grim. But I think we need to go through this period to get to a good place.
Right, we'll come back to that last point in a wee bit. Colin, we watched the game together, so that was even worse for you than just having to watch it on your own.
It was pretty dull. I thought. Positives, I suppose. Henderson coming on first 50 minutes of the second half, it looked a bit better. But the midfield's just lightweight. The centre of the midfield, it's a problem area. Like Newell is good. Like on his day, he's excellent. He's generally all right, but he can be inconsistent. But the other two just aren't even at that level, I don't think. And then, so if you're missing Newell, you're really struggling. And we only play two in the middle now because of this formation, and it just looks light. I can't believe that wasn't looked at in the window, even if Newell had been fit. Because we obviously can't rely on McGuinness, because every time he gets close to being fit, he picks up a strain or a knock. And I suppose when you get bad injuries like he's had, they always say that it's easier to pick up a hamstring or whatever, or a calf, because it must be your muscles are compensating or getting used to it again. So we can't count him in the numbers anymore, right? We count on him. Oh, when McGuinness comes back, it'll be all right. We've been saying that since fucking September or October. So we can't do that anymore. We should have got somebody else in the middle of the park. Amazing stat. So we didn't stay too long. That I was watching Sports Scene last night, and we had 38 crosses into the box on Saturday.
Fuck.
38. And we never looked like scoring for anyone.
No.
38. Like, even Mikey Stewart checked himself, because he said 38, and I think he thought, is it 28? And then Stevie Thompson, no, it's 38, and they put all the arrows on the screen to show you where they were coming from. And it's like, so we've been saying, and my mate Warren was with us on, and my other mate Colin, we were sitting on Saturday saying, Cadden's putting good balls into the box, needs getting on the end of them. And that's what we think, he's getting in a good area. But if he knows nobody's going to get on the end of it, should he try and do something else? Or should, if you're doing that many crosses into the box, why is somebody not taking a chance on them? You know what I mean? It's fuck. If you're getting nearly 40 crosses, 20 crosses a half into the box, how is nobody taking a chance and trying to get on the end of one?
Predominantly doing the right hand side, Colin. The arrows.
I don't think they were actually. I would guess at the 40 there was more. At the 38, sorry, there was more, but I don't think it was a massive. I don't think it was 30 versus 8. You know what I mean? I think it was.
Yeah.
They never counted them separately, but when you look at the arrows, I think there was probably more for the right, and from my memory, it was probably more for the right, but not like it was certainly wasn't 38-0 in that terms. But so how are we getting that many crosses? We had Doidge up front, so we've not got an excuse in the first half, or however long he stayed on. That's what he's there for, surely. So it must be the right thing, and it's good areas. The ball, most of them are going in. I mean, Sports Scene did show a couple that were overhit and stuff like that as well. But there's a lot of good balls going into the box that nobody's even getting near to getting on the end of. And if that's the style of play we're going to play, because we did get a lot of wide players in January, and the squad's like got more of them than anything else, or it feels like that, or inside forwards or whatever the fuck they are. We need to start getting bodies in the box. And Nisbet's getting a lot of criticism for folk, but he probably worked as hard as anybody on Saturday. He was chasing back, and he's sitting in midfield. He's coming into midfield because the midfield's there's no enough there. So he's dropping away to midfield to pick up the ball and try and do something with it. But he's your fucking best goal scorer. Get him in the middle. But he can't afford it, because he needs to go and help the midfield. Otherwise, the ball maybe wouldn't get in the box in the end. So there's a bit of stuff to work out there. And I don't know what the change that's required for that is. But I thought Henderson made a bit of a difference when he came on instead of... Who did he come on for? Did he come on for Deutsch?
Yeah, Deutsch went off half time and Henderson came on.
Yeah, so... But if Nisbet's playing up front on his own, he needs to stay in the box. He needs to stay in the middle rather than be drifting back. And maybe Henderson can do that for him. Because that's where the whole problem is in there.
It's a mental stat, that, like the 30 crosses.
Yeah.
And you'd probably have some sympathy then for the manager, because, I mean, you just even think by the low averages. Can you imagine how many goals we'd lose if we were defending 38 crosses in a game?
With 35, probably.
I was going to say there was a point not that long ago. It would have been about 35.
It's fucking mental.
They weren't all good crosses. Like, they did
No.
point out, they were overhitting some in that bit. That you get 38 opportunities to get a cross in. You've got to try and take one of them, surely.
Then that's good. I mean, for me though, that stat alone is signs that the manager's obviously realised we're not creating enough, because everyone was talking about the sideways and the backward passing and all that in games previous, and we're obviously not, changing up in the final third. So I would imagine, I mean, obviously I'm not a football manager, tactician, or anything like it, but I would imagine that the manager's walked away, the players, and said, right, first and foremost, we need to get the ball into the box. Get the ball into the box as much as possible. And as Matty was saying, low averages. If I stick 2 years on, one of you will be up there. And if we're getting 38 crosses into the box, surely one of them's going to go in. And unfortunately for him, it hasn't. But on the flip side of it, yes, disappointing result. But as a team that are going through transition, I like to see that things are changing game by game. Little things are he's taking things on from the games previous, and it's changing. Unlike maybe previous management where each game was the exact same over and over again, and then people are asking the question of, well, what are you doing about it? I think one of the many complaints for the big Ross out team was it wasn't changing it enough. Substitutions were coming on at like 80th minute, 75th minute, maybe something like that, and it was always the same people. There was never a complete change in tactic and all that. And I like to see that a young manager who's come in, and the thing is with Maloney, right, he's got a lot of experience in the sense that he's worked under some massive clubs, some massive names and all that. But this is his first, managerial role. He's going to make mistakes, but I like to see the fact that each game things are progressing, because it's not about right now. Like, you know what I mean? If you're going to change a full style of football, or a full team or whatever, which we'll get into, then it won't happen in one game. But as long
you feel that it's changing, though? Do you feel that things are improving, though, Craig? I think that's probably the question that folk are asking: is, are you seeing signs that there's improvement there?
I think yes, but I think there's signs. I think the problem that we have is he's trying to improve things in ways, as in like tactical, as in like get the ball into the box more, do this, do that more. However, it's mixed in with a little bit of unfortunate, like our luck doesn't really seem to be in at the moment, and the strikers are hitting form. And I think he touched on it in his interview previous. I mean, under Ross in the last 9 games or whatever it was, I think. So the previous season under Ross, what was it? We conceded 3 goals from crosses into the box or something like that, and the whole season, something daft like that. It was like a ridiculous stat.
None. The previous season,
it was none
in the cup.
In the cup, there was 3 or something. I can't really remember what the exact stat was. And then this season, we've been shipping in loads of goals for cross balls and all that sort of business, and that was one of the big complaints. It was like we just can't defend. Maloney's came in, and for somebody that's he's stuck with a back 3 pretty much. He's trying to play a lot more kind of possession-based, attacking style football, that flair that the Hibs fans want to see. And whilst it's not been working at the far end of the park, getting the goals in, all right, we made a mistake, as John already talked about. We will lose goals like that, but we seem to have showed up at the back quite a bit with either signings that he's brought in or just different tactics within our own box. So I would say that that's a progression. And I understand that people are going to be annoyed and maybe a wee bit kind of impatient at the fact that we're not scoring goals and we're not winning games. That, of course they are, but as long as we're taking little steps, the previous couple of games, it was we seem to be defending all right, but we're not moving the ball forward at all. It's always sideways, backwards. Couple of games in, we're getting 38 cross balls into the box. When Newell was playing the other day, because people were talking about how he's obviously taken on some sort of advice from the manager or from the fans or whatever, because every ball he's taken is a pass for. Every game there seems to be a progression. It's just not this massive, like we've went from losing a 1-0 drab game to putting 5 against St Mirren at home like we should do.
Do you think folk were maybe expecting like a Tony Mowbray style revolution? So Bobby Williamson was shit, like he was the one with that infamous, and I think I've heard recently like misattributed quote. Wasn't it him? But I think that's something that's I think he's been tarred with that brush. Like if you want entertainment, go to the cinema. When he, like whether he said that about Hibs or not. And then Tony Mowbray came in, and we had the so-called golden generation, and things were good. Like Tony Mowbray era was my favourite era watching Hibs. And we've not had that in any new manager since then. Like, we've never had that revolution. It's arguable that we've never had that layer of talent. Do you think that's part of the problem? Like, people think that we're going to have this revolution, but actually the revolution might take a little bit longer.
So I don't think... We can't blame them for thinking that, though, because that was exactly what the club were telling us.
What the manager said as well.
That was how it was sold. That's the expectation was set by the club on that it would be attractive football. That's what we want. So Mowbray came in and changed it right away, because I remember I was at the Kilmarnock that game, that first game of the season. We got beat. I think it was a deflected free kick or something. But boys like Murphy and Boozlin and that, you could see it's what they had in that game right away. Whereas we've came in, he's had the window. He's not had a full pre-season, admittedly, but it was actually better before the window. And my biggest frustration here is that it was better before the window, as in Dundee United. I mean,
Yeah.
and even Aberdeen to an extent, but certainly because there was a bit pressing in that. That seems to have I don't know if he's changed that. We're not doing that anymore. Or the Aberdeen game, you felt like Boyle and that were going out chasing the guys down, the defenders down, and the goalie down. But that seems to have we're not doing that anymore. But that team that was there in December finished third, got to consecutive cup finals, semi-finals if they weren't in the final. All it needed was to be made better. Whereas we've ripped it up and went, we need fucking 7 new bodies in. We need loads of wingers. We're not going to touch the centre midfield for whatever reason that is. We've got the centre halves in, or the centre half that's playing in that was required. That was always needed. That was needed in the summer as well. But it was a good squad. Not a brilliant squad, but it was a good squad that comfortably got third place, as much as anybody wants to talk it down, because Aberdeen didn't score goals in some games and fucking whatever other, Hearts weren't in the league and all that shit. But that was a good squad last season that got to more than one cup final. And if they weren't, as I say, they were in a semi-final and comfortably third place. But it needed just extra couple of bodies, another good striker, a couple of centre halves, and a centre midfielder. And we went and bought with fucking 6 wingers.
Well, I think you said it there though. Like one of the things that you said there was Martin Boyle, and I seem to remember a lot of the talk around Boyle, because obviously like he'd been unreal for us in the past. However long a player possessed, a player changed. But a lot of the time we were going into these games with Jack Ross, the ones that were saying, if Boyle turns up, we would be expected to win, or we're in with a good chance. A lot of the chat was around, if Boyle turns up, if Boyle's good. Do you think we were maybe relying too much on him?
Oh, absolutely. We said that last year on either this or Quick Bang when I was doing that as well. It was like, if Boyle's not on form, we're not on form. That was a lot of the case last season.
We were saying to him when he was on the podcast. I'm sure we actually had that discussion with Boyle himself, how important it was to the team.
Yeah, but then, I mean, right, we're getting into it now, innit? So I've looked at it, right?
Here's the research. I've been fucking waiting for
Here
this.
it comes.
Oh, right, move on.
I hope this is just going to show us a picture of a horse.
So Jack Ross, right, November 2019 to December 2021. We talked about the COVID thing and all that he had in between that kind of, I want to say, stunted his growth. That was, you know what I mean? That kind of, put a wee kind of stick in his spokes or whatever. But in that time, he signed 20 players, right? Those including McGuinness, Macy, Murphy, Jake Doyle-Hayes, Kevin Nisbet, Cadden, Gogic, Wright, Scott, Sinclair, Mueller, McGinn, and I've put in there the Boyle extension as well, right? So if you look at, he won 48, drew 19, lost 29. Maloney's first game, team setup, Macy, McGinn, Port O'Hanlon, Cadden, Jake Doyle-Hayes, Campbell, Doig, Allen, Boyle and Nisbet. So you've got Macy, McGinn, Cadden, Jake Doyle-Hayes, Nisbet, and I'm going to class Boyle as the 6th player as well, because he said that part of his contract extension was the fact that it was Jack Ross and all that. And I seem to remember when Jack Ross got pumped out, Boyle done that interview, and he stated that was one of the main reasons why he was staying at Hibs and all that, and everybody went up in there, right? So as Colin was saying, we've went from maybe not playing the most attractive style of football, however, finishing third, getting to lots of major cup finals, semi-finals, and the fans, from what I can understand, it's yes, we went through a bad patch, right? There's no denying the fact that Jack Ross had a bad patch. It was 9 games beaten or something like that, or 9 games that we didn't win in a row. However, the club had just signed a new contract extension for him, and they were talking about backing him and all this sort of business. And if you think about the window prior, he was shafted, and the club subsequently sacked Greg McEwen and all that. So they obviously realised, Matthew, not Greg McEwen, Greg Matthew.
He doesn't know that yet. Craig, keep that quiet.
That's the appointment on the 15th.
But so the club realised that there was a problem. The manager that they'd signed a contract with and backed for long term that was originally there to change the club and the ethos and the playing and all this sort of business, all of a sudden goes through a bad patch, just about to come up to a window where, as Colin was saying, you know, it was a good squad. It just needed a few changes here and there. We get rid of him and we bring in Maloney, right? And I'll put my hand up, right? I was never a Jack Ross out candidate. However, on the game prior to him getting sacked, I did say, oh, you know, he has to go, because I was probably quite passionate about it in the sense that it was 9 games defeated. And like, I think we had a conversation about it, Matty, and it was just like, I can't see a way ahead for him and all that sort of stuff. Looking back on that, I'd want a chief exec or somebody at the club to have that level head to say, right, I can understand that the fan base are upset. However, we're getting to a window. We've had this vision. We're looking at it from above rather than from on the terrace or whatever way you want to put it. Wait out till the window, sort of idea. But anyway, what's done is done. He's gone, right? So the fans are like, we want him out because we want, you know, exciting, fast, on the ball on the ground, you know, Hibs style football, that sort of business. So we bring in Maloney, right, who really I thought was the only kind of exciting option. There was that Knutson guy, that Norwegian guy, but I don't think that would ever came to anything, unfortunately. But bringing Maloney with the credentials that he's got, talking a good game, want to play out for the back, fast attacking, whatever style of football, happy days. Happy with that. And he comes in, but he's left with, as we've previously spoken, a team that was not set up to play that style of football. And they never really played that style of football, and that's why everybody was upset. So now he's left with a train set that he has to force to kind of play that set with players that probably can't do it. And on top of that, Boyle goes, who we've just spoken about previously. So I don't understand what certain parts of the fan base want, in the sense of, I mean, I know what they want. I know they want a manager to come in and to be changed instantaneously and to play this flair style of football and to win games and all that sort of business. But how many times does that happen to a club? How many times?
And a bit of devil's advocate, right? So the last 2 defeats we've had at Easter Road, so the last 3 games we've had, right, we've scored 2 goals against Livingston, conceded 3, no goals against Hearts, and then no goals against St Mirren.
I think it's about 5 games we've not scored then. If one game we've scored, only one in the last 5 we've scored a goal, I think.
Right. Cove Rangers came in with 2 extra time to score against them, and again there was probably about 30 crosses for Chris Cadden alone in that game. And this is where I think we need to be careful when we talk about fans' expectations and say kind of they're unrealistic or whatever. I'm a fan. I expect us to be able to beat Cove. I expect us to, with the amount of money and the investment that's going into the team, to beat Livingston, to beat St Mirren, because, and I've made this point before, in the same way that when Rangers beat us or Celtic beat us, it's annoying, but I didn't get downhearted about it because they spend, a significant amount of money, more than we do, to get a team like that. The same token, we spend a lot more than Livingston, we spend a lot more than St Mirren. We've brought in, like, even for Maloney to come in, Maloney came in with Caldwell. We've got a new goalie coach. You've got a strength and conditioning guy come in as well.
There was the externalist guy as well that came in as his technical director or something.
Aye, so it's an Italian guy. I forget his name. That's terrible.
No, there's a UK guy as well. He's got a
UK.
There's an Italian guy, but there's a UK guy that's his technical communication director or something. So it's a big overhaul.
You've got that overhaul. You've got a transfer window where we've splashed out money again. We're no shopping bargain basement now. It's not like Hibs are scraping around trying to get signings. I don't think it's that unrealistic. I genuinely don't, to expect a manager to come in and be able to put a team out to beat these teams. Or at least score, do you know? And I kind of, it's like too black and white way to look at it, because, like you say, 38 crosses or 6 shots on target. Their keeper's made a few saves. On another day, Josh Campbell has one off the line against Hearts that could easily have been a goal. I don't want to say the words fine and margin, but it's like I kind of that comes into play in football. You're not always going to get it going your way. But I don't think the folk who are upset about us losing these games or the games being quite boring, because the Saturday was quite boring. Like it was, there was spells in the game that I quite enjoyed. I thought we looked all right when we were attacking in the wings. We looked all right. I thought Jasper looked good when he came on. Cadden had a good game again. But there was big parts of the game. You're just like, what was they? There's no atmosphere. The team only click in. We're not scoring goals.
But I think there's a difference between being, you know, I don't want to say not upset, but a bit kind of like about performances and all that sort of stuff, and already gunning down a manager's throat for trying to implement something completely different.
I agree with that.
As to what was previous, and I understand that I've spent quite a lot of money on players recently, and we do have bigger budgets in these teams, and we should be expecting to beat them at home. However, the teams like the Livingstons, and I'm sorry, this possibly might be quite not out of order. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to be disrespectful to.
Patronising, you're going to condescend, patronising.
Yeah.
Arrogant, good.
But
get it all in. They'll clip it and they'll put it on their Twitter.
But you know, a lot of these teams play football in a certain style, don't they? They are hard to beat, hard bastards that come in a case. Like, okay, the league's getting better. Like Livingston are saying, like say Omeonga and all that sort of stuff. And there are a lot of playmakers in these teams. However, the root of a lot of them seems to be just be difficult to play and take your chances. Unfortunately for Hibs, if Hibs went out in a game like St Mirren, I can almost guarantee if we went out to play St Mirren at home and played to be hard to beat and take a scruffy chance, as much as we would be happy with the result, it would be the same as previous, where it would be like, well, why have we changed to Maloney? Because he's not trying to play an expansive style of football.
No, you're right. That's why the last manager got. That's why he got a lot of criticism, because he was winning games, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't fancy enough.
And as much as we've spent a lot in the January window, which I think we have, and I think it's good. And to be honest, I think Jack Ross should have probably got that money to spend where he wanted it to build on the team that we already had. However, you're never going to rebuild a team in a January window. And it's easy to say, oh, this is the only player we needed. This is the only player we needed. If we'd have stayed with the manager previous, he would have probably already known, right, I know I'm short here and I know I'm short there. This is what I need to bring in to make the team that I've already got work. Whereas bringing in a different manager with a different philosophy and style of football and playing out the back, he's not just thinking, oh, I only need those two centre-halves and a striker to show up and be good. He's thinking, fuck, I've got nobody that can play it for the back apart from maybe Porto. I'm relying on Louis Stevenson because, and it goes through the team and it's just like...
That's kind of what I was getting at in terms of having to go through a hard spell, because I don't think Stevenson is going to be playing regularly at left centre-back. I think quite often people refer to like the spine of the team. We've had Doidge injured this season. He's only just come back. He's not looking fit. Newell's probably looked the best of our midfielders in the last few weeks, and he's out injured. McGuinness started the season strongly, is out injured. Hanlon out injured. The back three or the defence in front of the goalkeeper has been chopped and changed position. The goalkeeper's recently changed as well. Like nothing is consistent, and the style of play that I think Maloney's trying to get Hibs to play, it's not going to, despite what the club and the manager were saying to begin with. And I think that's something that the club maybe need to look at about setting expectations. Like, didn't promise us gold and all you can deliver us is brass to begin with. Like, the way that I see Hibs at the moment is that it's going to take a little while to develop
the only thing
what Hibs are trying to develop.
John, you're right, but the only thing with that is they come out with long-term plans again. Everybody will go, they believe you, because he's not here long enough. We spoke about that. If he does well, he's away. If he doesn't, we're binning him. That's the simple fact.
There's no long-term.
So there's no long-term plan. We have no long-term plan. I think I read today that the longest serving. Who do you think the longest-serving manager in the the Premiership is?
Martindale.
At the moment, I was going to say Martindale.
I think it's Goodwin. I think it's Goodwin.
Maybe aye.
And so it's like he's hardly even, you know what I mean? He's not even completed 2 years yet. Robbie Nielsen's about third on the list. I mean, he only just went back there. There's no long term at any club in Scottish football, or certainly at the third place down, there isn't. So if they come out with all that, so they've made these promises to get everybody on board. The problem, I think, I was going to say when Craig was speaking there, the problem we've almost got a divided fan base here, right? Craig was starting talking about what Jack Ross might have done and all that, and I've probably been guilty of that in the past as well. But like, we need to get behind the new guy, like, because he's in the job now. We need to forget about fucking Jack Ross, and let's talk about. But we can't. If you read the message boards, I'm not on Twitter as much. I've recently got the account, but I've not looked at it as that much. But you look at the message boards, and it's just petty fucking. There was about, I think somebody counted up, it was 8 or 9 threads yesterday about Maloney, and it's all the usual. Well, Jack Ross would have done that, and he's moaned about that, and it's like, why are you a Jack Ross supporter? Are you a Sean Maloney supporter? Or we just fucking support Hibs? Like, let's forget who the fucking manager is, and let's just support the team. And the club need to. I don't know how they solve that, but it's like a huge, like, it's almost a divide in the fan base on, like, people try to say, I was right, I didn't want him sacked ever, so I'm correct. It's like, fuck it, forget it. He's away. He's done. He's got to get another job somewhere else. Worry about that then.
Yeah, absolutely, and I completely agree with you. And I was probably sounding a bit like a kind of fanboy there, but what I was trying to get across, and I hope that people listening will understand this, is that if you're going to chop and change and do all these sort of things, you can't expect a stable team, and you can't expect to be going into these games and winning, because if it's constantly trying to change, you know, you're going to come out with results like these. And I am excited about Maloney. Yeah, like people, I don't want to. Here we go. I'm going to say that I don't want to say something, say it, and then contradict it right after, right?
Well,
so
that's what this podcast is all about, Craig. Contradicting ourselves as soon as we've said something. So
exactly. So
regretting saying stuff. That's what's all.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of people mention like Cathro and all that, and we've talked about it countless. Like you have talked about it countless times on here, and I'm not going to add anything to it apart from the fact that I think it's utter pish, right? And I don't like. Here's the contradiction. I don't like being compared to other managers and all that sort of stuff. However, you look at Celtic and Postecoglou. He came in and it was almost the same thing, and people were screaming like, "What's this guy on? Couple of windows, bit of time, and he looks to have a powerhouse there, team." It's just, you know, as Colin says, we've just got to get 100% behind him. But by getting behind Maloney, by getting behind the team, full stop, we have to take in or understand that it will not happen in the next game. It will take a bit of time. That's just the way it is. And and there's no good in going out publicly and slating the manager and saying, "Oh, this is shite. It's like Cathro. It's never going to be any better than what it was." There's no point in going and picking on a striker, say Kevin Nisbet, who, by the way, right, has been through a horrendous. He's just lost his dad, and he's going through a bit of a kind of run of bad form and all that, and like, I've seen people giving it stick because he scored the other week and, you know, he cupped his ears to the fans and all that. Like, you know, that's not everybody. That's like to, you know, that's for me. That's to personal people that have probably DM'd him and contacted him personally.
The folk who got annoyed about it are the folk that he's aimed at it, to be fair.
And giving him actual stick. And then people are getting on his back saying, "Oh, you've got no right to do that because you're not being scoring," and that. It's like, the boy's just lost his dad and that. He's young. You know what I mean? He's basically, well, he's our head striker, so he's got all the weight in that on his shoulders, and I understand that he takes a wage and that we expect that he scores and all that sort of stuff, But how's about we help him and get behind him rather than just start fucking lobbing abuse at him and that, Like, it seems to me that it's so.
You've not been following Hibs for long, Craig, have you? What kind of statement is that? Like, what I was going to ask, John, right? How much a factor is this for Maloney? Because he's not had a settled starting 11, right? But his injuries, so he's had his goalkeeper injured, Hanlon's been injured, he signed Harry Clark for presumably like a wing back role, injured as soon as he gets into the club. Joe Newell's just been injured. He wasn't available on Saturday because he wasn't fit, so he's had to change the midfield again. First McGuinness, Paul McGinn being injured. Kyle McGuinness was making his comeback, takes a contact injury, I believe it was, in a bounce game. So he's nearly ready for the first team. Bang is out for another few weeks. I can't remember you saying, Colin, but not being able to rely on him. That's quite a lot of chopping and changing that's been forced on Maloney as well.
See, are you asking John this? Or
I
can
was
I-
actually just going to say, like, how much of an impact and should we be making allowances for that?
Aye, of course we should. Like, he just about named the starting 11. I didn't even realise that Macy had picked up an injury. I just thought that with Dabrowski playing in the derby that Maloney had decided to go
He was
another
on the
way.
bench on Saturday, but it wasn't
Aye,
on the bench in the derby because he was injured for the derby.
Who was on the bench for the derby? Was it the
Mitchell.
American goalkeeping coach?
The
Mitchell.
boy from the Peep Show.
Oh,
David
David.
Aye. He was on the. It was dead funny. Like if you were on the bench, and they just had the camera and sit looking. He's going, oh no! What if I get asked to play?
I think I don't know. I don't know if it would. I don't know if it would require Hibs to get worse for Hibs to develop a siege mentality at Easter Road, but with the number of injuries that we've had, and it's not just like in the last couple of weeks, it affected the previous manager as well. And like surely now, like to kind of echo what Colin was saying before about like regardless of who the manager is, like support the team. Like we can't even do that at the moment. And now more than ever is probably a time that we just give the team unequivocal backing, like totally unprejudiced. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're wearing a Hibs shirt, fucking support them. Don't abuse them, support them. But we
look at Drake coming on the derby. Look at Campbell gets dogs abuse. You sat where I sit on Saturday and
it was James Scott was getting ready to come on, so he's not even got his top off. There's a boy behind us says, "Don't you fucking dare! Don't you fucking dare bring him on! Don't you!" And it was about 5 times he shouted it, and you're like, "Get the hell, man!"
Still couldn't hear him.
And to be fair, James Scott's shite, right? Like we can all agree, that's probably not something we wanted to see. But you didn't stand in the stadium with the boys about to come on and fucking shout that, surely.
But I think the difference with James Scott is I think Colin, well, the podcast, but I think it was Colin that was bringing it up on a previous episode, was the attitude, is the fact that like he couldn't get himself fit, he wasn't putting 100% in. Like, you know what I mean? I can understand why fans would be annoyed at stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like I get that. It's like if you're not even willing to put the effort in, then you can do one, in my eyes at least anyway. Like, you know, but people like Dre Wright came in, and I seem to remember when we signed him in the first place, everybody thought this is a class signing because he played really well for St Johnstone and all that sort of business. And it just never quite clicked for him, eh? And you would think that, you know, a new manager coming in, Maloney's already said it as well. He's like, you know, I've got to give everybody their time. And I think, again, you know, you've said it on the podcast before, that the only real place where you'll see people get their chance and see how the more into team is on the park in an actual game in front of fans. Like, you know, but what chance do these players have if they come onto the park and from day one they'll get absolutely, like, you know what I mean? Like if it was me, like obviously I'm never going to go out there and play unless it's like a fucking, I don't know, like one of these charity games where they drag people out or whatever, but or half time.
Longbangers see down the slope derby match.
That game.
But if it was me, like it's not like they know, and like. It's just like there could be nothing more because you'd be shiting yourself because every time you're going out, you're like, "This is I need to be perfect here." Every time I touch the ball, I need to be perfect.
It must. It's got to, and it's so negative. But do you know? Think I spoke to Matthew about this on Saturday that, and I'm not trying to criticise the manager here because I'm trying to desperately to get behind it, but the substitutes are like erratic. It's we've got 5, which is fucking too many. You didn't need to use 5. It's not compulsory to use all 5. But even that we're using all 5, we're bringing on. We're getting Dre Wright on in the derby, and then he's not to be seen again the next game, and then he might start again on Wednesday night, and it's like, what the fuck's going on? He's in, he's starting, he's not even getting a minute, and then he's on the bench and he's coming on, and then it's like all over the place. James Scott sometimes gets a minute, sometimes doesn't. You know, it's like. And I'm not saying you should pre-plan your subs or anything, but like if you've got 9 subs, I'm guessing you know 3 that are probably most likely to get on because they can make an impact. Or it's usually forward players and midfielders now, isn't it? That are going to be your planned subs. But we didn't like, and that maybe goes back to when Jack Ross was there. It was you knew who was coming on. You knew it was the 60th minute, and he'll bring Murphy on or something, right? But here it's like, as I say, like. Dre Wright can go from starting the game to not getting a minute to being back on the bench to getting some minutes to being back at the squad altogether again. It's like, what the fuck's going on? Like it's just not. I can't see the thinking. And he may be trying to give everybody minutes, but I'm not sure he is because he hardly gave Hallberg any minutes. He's not giving
Maybe Gogic any minutes
Gogic any minutes.
this
So
year.
it's
Go
like
on. That
he gives some folk minutes. Tate never got any minutes. He got fucking sent away again. You know what I mean? It's like so he is giving people minutes, but it's like it just seems erratic as fuck. The sort of use of the squad, which I don't know. I don't know who it's helping.
no, maybe
I mean,
that's
James
maybe
Scott
that is
on
his start
Saturday.
getting forced to it, like with injuries and stuff like that, because he's trying to kind of like manage players through quite high volume of games if he can.
The James Scott on Saturday. I mean, he came on. I only remember it was on 90. It was injury time, and I went, "Oh fuck! I forgot he came on." You know, it was like I know he was not on long in the first place, but then it was like I think he went for try to knock a throw in on or something on the touchline in 93 minutes, and I went, "Fuck."
I was going to say, did he get a touch?
I don't know if he got a touch on it, but he definitely went for it. But
Do
it
you
was
reckon
like
there's- do you reckon
that was the
there's
first
something
time I
in
realised
his-
he was there.
Do you reckon there's something in his loan contract, one of those where you have to play a certain amount of game or a certain amount of time? Or
He might have one that if he gets so many touches, we need to pay extra, so we've told him to bother touching the ball or something. Because it's fucking, it's like, it's amazing, like, because he came in against Dundee at second, third, fourth game of the season, and I thought he looked all right up front, and he was only nearly scored.
Yeah.
That might have been a different player if that had went in, but since then, like, what's happened? Just off the face of the earth.
Colin, you mentioned about the managers and no staying very long, right? And one of the ways that so you can't plan for the long term. One of the ways that football clubs appear to mitigate against that nowadays is they have a director of football who takes care of the long term planning. So the recruitment's done not just for the manager that's here now, but for the next manager and the next manager after that, and so on. Hibs had a director of football or a football director. Can't remember Graham Matthews' exact title. Sacked him, haven't replaced him. There was a bit of chat on the message boards about some people having a concern about us having kind of ripped up a structure that appeared to be working and appeared to have a good bit of logic behind it and replacing it with something completely different. Do you think that's, or how much an issue do you think that is? And are you concerned about the structure of the club now?
Well, I mean, this B team that's getting spoken about that they seem to be buying players in for and bringing players in, that might be the new way, and there's some merit in it if they were playing competitive matches, which I don't think they're going to be. They're just going to be playing bounce games against Huddersfield and that. But it seems to be the right thing to do. Celtic and Rangers already do it. I know folk were in uproar because they thought they were. But maybe Hibs should be looking at getting in Bonnie Rosie's league and that, and getting these laddies kicked about up and down the park a bit, so that they're ready for first team football. Because I see Hearts are jumping on the bandwagon. They were in I think it was the Evening News last week saying that, making it out like it was their idea. We're going to get a B team because we need a progression. Like, that's what we're doing. And so there is merit in it, because 17-year-old laddies, unless they're exceptional like Wayne Rooney or Michael Owen, are unlikely to go straight into the first team. They're going to need to get toughened up a wee bit for a season or two. You should be in the first team by, as I've said plenty of times, you should be in the first team. If you're good enough, you've got to be in the first team by you're 19. I think. So there's merit in that, and maybe Steve Keane, although they've not called it whatever football director or director of football or whatever it was, is that what Steve Keane's role is?
Is he academy director or something?
Academy director or like head of development or something like that. I can't remember. Do you know what was Hibs put a YouTube? I think if you've watched it, the YouTube video that Hibs put out with him, it's like 15 minutes long or something. It's quite interesting. He said Boozy came back to the club as well as a coach. Did you ken that?
I've seen somebody messaging it, but no, I didn't know that. I only knew it last night when somebody messaged it in, but I suppose that it's no, because the director of football will be more involved in first team stuff, whereas Steve Keane's obviously looking after the pathway to the first team rather than bringing first team ready players in.
I would imagine, though, that there would be a close working relationship with the first team manager and
the academy director.
Yeah,
that's Steve Keane's title.
And maybe that's what the club are kind of, relying on being the kind of the way that they move forward. Let the people who are in the game and who have been in the game and who understand the game talk to each other and decide what they want and how that can meld together, rather than get somebody who isn't an ex-footballer or whatever to decide the kind of, maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Right, just conscious of time when we're approaching the hour, I think. So I'm going to take some points for Twitter that folk have sent us, and we'll discuss them. So I just as I was pulling it up, I bookmarked a tweet earlier on. So we've been asked a few times about merchandise. Could we do something? So I asked folk to kind of tweet us what merchandise would they like to see us. Just one of the ones that I had bookmarked. Just it came up first one I found. Saw big green dildos. If you know, you know. Right, first point of the
big's big?
evening.
How big's big?
Aye.
I saw Hanlon
Okay,
on the house suggesting one big glove
could-
as well,
aye,
one for your big hand.
I can tell you what it's no. Right, Mark McKenzie's his first point says Nisbet needs to sit down, offering nothing. I know everyone is commenting on how his work rate has improved. I personally feel like he's working harder to hide. He seems scared to shoot. I want things to work out for Maloney, but there isn't a lot to hang on to at the moment. John, your take on that one?
I'm always tempted to go for that Falkirk director. That was a question. That was a statement, not a question.
They're all statements,
I-
it's just the talking points. They're not necessarily questions.
I think Nisbet's definitely struggling with confidence. I thought that he had a really good opportunity to score on Saturday, and he went with the side foot rather than getting the laces through it. And I think the only thing that's going to improve that is I'm actually scoring goals, which means game time, which means folk know howling at him when he does miss. Strikers are going to miss in the same way that defenders are going to make mistakes and concede goals.
Yep.
So, and the thing is as well, like if you bench him, and it wasn't that long ago that we were a wee bit concerned at the prospect of losing him because he'd admittedly handed in a transfer request. And now we're like, well, fucking
I
get him
don't know
back.
if he actually did it. It was reported that he did it, but I think if it was ever confirmed, was it?
This is one of those, well, it's maybe one of those misattributed quotes again. He certainly spent a wee bit of time out along with Ryan Porteous because there was speculation as to their future.
Certainly no helping him now if it wasn't true, because it's being used as fuel.
Yep. I still think he's a good player. I still think that the goal scorer that we had is there. My concern about dropping him is that it leaves Hibs in a worse position because of the alternatives or lack of alternatives that are on the bench. So I would persevere. I would persevere with the style of play because there was some of the positives that I saw from Saturday in terms of what Maloney's trying to bring. Nisbet was involved in it and just didn't find himself on the edge of the crosses. And one that he did find himself on the end of, he didn't stick it away.
Next point then from T.G. Willis. John, the weather didn't help. It was always going to be a mistake, which led to a goal. Just a pity it was Hibs who made the mistake. Colin, the weather have a big impact, do you think?
Nah, not really. It was just a bit of rain, wasn't it? I think it was that bad. I don't think.
Windy as well, wasn't it?
Aye, I don't think that was. I don't think it was going to cause. That was going to be the break of the. What was going to break the game, make or break the game. It was. We had chances to take. I mean, we put them straight at the keeper like twice or three times, in fact. Because even the Nisbet one that looked like it was further away was straight at the keeper, and it was the keeper put onto the post and almost back in. I think off his own arm. So I wouldn't say the weather was the reason. I don't think it was always going to be a mistake because your chances, the three that I'm thinking, I don't know, I can't remember what the 6 opportunities on target were, but the 3, was it 2 Hendersons and the one for Nisbet? They're chances that you would like to think. It's funny though, because folk are saying Nisbet needs to get his laces through it. Well, Campbell the other night and Henderson twice on Saturday put their laces through it, and then they won. So maybe putting in the corner replacement might have been better in that case, but. No, I don't think a mistake was always going to be the case. We're always at risk of making a mistake though, because the way we're playing, the defence don't look comfortable with the ball at their feet. Any of them. I'm not even. Porteous can look excellent like he did in the derby, but he's like a big game player that is good in the big games.
Oh, see when the game
these
again.
Other games, it's like he's like always looking. His eyes are off the ball. He's doing something else when the ball's coming to him and that. And Rocky doesn't look comfortable with the ball at his feet. Stevenson's never look that comfortable with the ball at his feet. You know what I mean? He's a good defender, and he gets up and down the park and he runs about, but he's very one-sided and all of that. So, and then it was obviously Doyle Hayes that made the mistake, and it's like he's eye off the ball, looking for where he's going to pass it, probably thinking, I need to get this fucking forward, or they cunts are all going to boot me. So he's too busy thinking about it and got trapped under his feet. It wasn't like a Jim Goodwin masterclass like he was trying to claim. Like,
Oh,
you know,
no,
that was a fuck.
things that came off fucking head. And see, Goodwin, mind the worst one for that was by Falkirk beat us in the semi-final at Hampden, and we battered them that game. Came with can hit the bar and
that's right. Houston.
And Houston says it was we played for it kind of like as if we just needed to get crosses in. I'm going, see if you just need to get crosses in, but fucking go and win 6-0. Don't rely on your one cross that you get being a goal. I just go, we'll rely on Hibs no scoring and let them batter us. Fucking, that does my head in. And it wasn't Goodwin setting traps or his team setting traps that cost the goal. Jake Doyle Hayes lost the ball.
Lack of concentration, no.
And then, they were lucky not to concede 3 or 4.
The boy smashed it his laces right down the middle of the goal.
So, good finish, to be fair to the boy, but
it's burst the net, like, nearly.
Anyway, right, St Christopher. We've generally been tighter at the back under Maloney. It was just one bad pass that led to the goal. Their keeper played well, not far away from getting some results. Jasper looks a player, could be the player to allow us our outball and attacking football promised. Craig, what do you think of that?
Yeah, pretty much agree with it. I think their keeper made some decent saves that you would expect him to make, but again, you know, the ball isn't like coming straight back at Tiz and getting that kind of look at the bounce or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, you know, lapse error. That Jasper, that was Jordan was saying, he came on, he just looked like he wanted it, didn't he? And I don't know if that was maybe a difference in, you know, maybe that's where some of the criticism's coming in for maybe Nisbet. I think Doy's looked a wee bit off it as well, but Jasper looked like he's like, give me that ball and I will do something with it. Whether it ends up in the net or whatever, you know, looks like a player. Hopefully stays fit.
Aldo says, talking point, but not about the game. Have Hibs missed a trick with not pursuing Charles Cook, a player who is up to speed and knows the Scottish game already? Should we have been in for him, guys? You think? Or do you think we were?
He's to fit he's a wide player that scores goals, so we've signed plenty of wide players, so yes, he would fit that mould, but he's out of contract in the summer, isn't he? So he's maybe on a promise somewhere else already.
Aye. Mike, did YOY, I love a YOY tweet, it's like points of view. It could be, who did it last? Terry Wogan or Aaron Robinson or something like that? YOY. Where does that phrase come from? Why do folk write like that? No offence, Mike, I just made me laugh when I saw it.
Shakespeare's.
Why?
Points of view was the on when Shakespeare was around, Colin. Didn't have tellies back then. That's why I kept writing.
Can we start reading these out in a points of view format, like Disgruntled from West Lothian says?
We could do like That's Life and have a wee Doug shouting sausages at the same time.
Your younger listeners all switched off by now. They would point to That's Life. What are you talking about?
Fuck you, Doric.
I'm going to spin image next.
Is it on TikTok?
Spin image is back.
It is. Right, why can't we put the ball in the net? The longer this goes on, the more the fragility in front of goal is going to haunt them. Surely mixing it up a little with either Nizzy or Doidge on the bench, or play either Melkerson or Mueller up front, as this is hurting us weekly. Melkerson, so we were talking about it before we started. Maloney is a few weeks away from the first team, which I think if the folk just didn't want to hear it. Do you know what I mean? Because I get, Kim, you're excited about a player coming and you think he's going to be great. Hibs did kind of give him a good bit of fanfare, as you would expect for an exciting prospect, but because he's not come straight into the team, it's like folk have just ignored Maloney saying he's not quite ready, he's not played for a while, but bringing him through a few bounce games and then
he came with a bit of he's come to Hibs with a bit of fanfare because of the goals that he scored in the Norwegian League. And Hibs are missing goals at the moment, so people have automatically went, no goals, get him in the first team. But if he comes in the first team and doesn't start scoring goals immediately, folk will just write him off. Like it's maybe
high expectations.
So maybe going back to what you were saying earlier, Colin, about what Hibs and Maloney promised the fans, maybe it's better that we sort of temper those expectations and kind of.
He did temper them. That's the point I'm making. Is he did? He came out and said he'll be ready for a few weeks. But
have people read that? Have
400
people
grand
listened to
though.
that?
The 400 grand's overriding that.
aye, but we're not signing them for the 3 weeks now. We're signing them for the next 3 or 4. I can't remember how long his
Is
contract
it like a
is.
5-year contract that he had?
I think it's maybe 4 years. So
The question is,
4.5?
the question, like if you want to call it devil's advocate or no, but
well,
if we're signing them for the future, then right, why did we not sign somebody for the now as well? Then because that's what we need
But-
now.
because you're looking at it and you've still got Deutsch, Nisbet, Mueller in there. We did sign Jasper's just come on, and I kind of know a forward, but you've got Mitchell that was signed as well as an attacking player. There's cover there. It's no, and I kind of the forwards aren't clicking now, right? But that can change. All it takes is something going in off. Well, we've seen it with Deutsch before. Something goes in off his arse or whatever, and then he scores the next 6 games in a row. So you look at it, you could probably think, if you're Maloney, I can bring him in and get him up to speed. Mike Hart's brought a boy in. I made this point in Hibs.net, right? Hart's brought a boy in, and I can't remember which league it was, one of the Scandinavian ones, I'm sure. And the fans were all talking about how amazing this boy was going to be. He's this superb goal scorer. He was going to rip the league up and everything. He put him in, lasted half the game, took him off, slaughtered him for not being fit enough, and they never saw him again. That was it. That was his build up to the sign in. Played 45 minutes, ruined them, and punted them. That was it. We've got time to do it. Let the boy have a bit of time and bring him in, rather than going. This is just my opinion, but put him in the team, get him in the team, get in the team, and then when he doesn't score because he's not ready, go fucking 400 grand. What a waste of money, and write him off because that's what will happen.
Can I offer a wee defence of Kevin Nisbet and a wee bit constructive criticism of another Hibs player in the same breath?
Aye.
As much as I was saying before that Nisbet never put the laces through it and Henderson, should have found the corner or whatever. I thought Mueller had 2 chances at the weekend that if he'd struck sooner rather than waiting for the perfect opportunity to put in, there was an opportunity for 2 goals there.
Mm.
And I'm not seeing much in the way of that criticism that Nisbet's coming in line for. And is it just because Mueller's the golden boy, he's the new toy, that he doesn't get that? And I think it's the same.
I like Mueller, so
it's like it's just if we're going to be like I'd rather see constructive criticism across the board rather than selective.
Aye.
Slaughtering the players.
But that's what happens.
Look at Saturday, Colin.
It was. Campbell gets it tight. Now, Campbell's no brilliant, but it's a likability. I think I mentioned it last week. There's a likability thing. It's about being liked as much as it is being consistent or good. Because there's players get away with murder, or if you want to call it that. There's players that get away with mistakes that others don't, because the fans like them, or because they've had a good interview, or they've said nice things, or they're a Hibs fan, or whatever it may be. Purchase v Nisbet, for example.
I was about to say, just say his name there, Colin. You're kind of like you're turning into like Graham Souness and Paul Pogba here, innit?
Macy v Dabrowski is another one. Because Dabrowski is like I'm not a fan of either. I'm a fan of Hibs, but he got hammered for his distribution. Dabrowski's no different, but he came out after the derby, man of the match in the derby, which Macy was as well, and said really nice things and done a really nice interview. He's going to get loads of leeway. Doesn't he come for crosses? Distribution's not any better than Macy's. He gets away with it. He's going to get away with it for a lot longer. It's a likability thing. It's the same over the park. Campbell, I don't know why Campbell's not particularly liked, but folk are on his case so much more than they are for others making the same mistakes. Same with Dre Wright. There's 3 or 4 that are picked. We'll go for them. Used to be, it was John Rankin was another one in the day on the old days. Liam Miller. It was like Liam Miller could play the same class that Scott Allen did on the same day within a minute of each other. And one was getting the full round of applause, and the other one was like, no, you fucking should be able to do that.
Do you think Campbell gets it a wee bit harder because he might not be playing his best football at the moment, and because Allen's on the bench and people say, some sort of midfielder why is Scott Allen on the bench?
There's definitely an element of that. There was a boy who shouted behind us, kind of like when Principal Skinner's getting it tight for the kind of whoever his superintendent, I can't remember who's in charge of Principal Skinner and the Simpsons, and he just goes, Skinner! That was like somebody went, Campbell! Like that. Fucking hell.
It's unfortunate that players seem to get picked out. I do think it's down to there's a likability thing in there. And I'm not sure how you become likable. I can see how Dubrovsky has, because that interview was good. You know what I mean? It was brought everybody right in, but I don't know. And Alan done it because he was on his day exceptional. So that there's reasons, right, for some of them, but others you go, why do you not like him? What was it you like about him? I get the Campbell one to an extent, and that he doesn't create anything, doesn't score any goals, and doesn't appear to be a defensive midfielder. So what is his job? Like, what is it? Apart from it, he's bringing an engine to the team, isn't he? That's it. Because he runs about.
Tell you what he is, he's fit, and half the fucking Hibs squad aren't.
Yeah, that's it. He's an engine. That's what I mean.
But I didn't mean fit like in terms of stamina. Like, I mean, he can actually pull a trip on the last 90 minutes in the pitch, unless he's substituted.
No contact injuries.
Right, Hibs class 2022.
What did that even mean, by the way? What the fuck is a contact? Are most injuries not contact injuries unless you pull up randomly with a hammy?
Aye, so
I think you've answered your own question there, Joe.
Twist your knees.
Move on.
We'll move on. Hibs class 2022 said, what's everyone's starting 11 and why? Probably not got time to cover that one, but we'll park it for another episode, mate. Leon Baldry.
We've got 11 players anyway. There's only about 10.
It's the one that started on Saturday.
Give it all the boys into the bowl, and we'll like pick out number 23, like Rod Stewart. Liam Baldry, why does Maloney keep talking tripe? Is his eyes genuinely painted on? We should have won 5-0. He's at it. That's like a question. So Maloney pointed to the chances that we missed as sort of evidence, I suppose, that we weren't as bad as folk might have thought. Did he have a point?
I didn't see the interview. I've not seen it. I've read about this, but I've not seen it, so I'll let one of the others pick it up.
I think, unfortunately, Maloney is in a situation where he came into a team. He said himself that he's got to try out loads of different players because they're trying to change the style of play and everything that we've talked about previously. He can't be going out and slaughtering players. It's been proven before that the modern day player doesn't really take well to people coming out and absolutely hammering them. And what does it say if you come in and it's only, 5-6 games in and you're coming in and hammering them? He's got to go out there and say the positive things. With the previous interview, we did have 3, 4 or 5 chances that if we put them away, it's right. I think sometimes the way that interviews are taken and putting down in written word looks a lot worse than what it is, and people seem to take, I think, unfortunately, because of kind of like the likability thing, I think because of the way Maloney looks in that interview when his eyes were like pointing at the screen and that, and it made a perfect sort of meme, as if to say, oh, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I think, unfortunately, his looks go against him. Maloney speaks well. It's his first big managerial job. I know he done sports scene and all that, but it's the first time that he's talking about his own players in front of the cameras and all that. Just give him a bit of time to settle in and people finding little things to. You notice that when the club and all that, I think we spoke about this long time ago. When things are going well at the club, all these little things don't get picked up. Nobody cares. Yep. But if you go through a little bad period, people are like, "Oh my god, his eyes look like they're popping out his head and all that. He's lost it. He's lost the dressing room and all that. He's only just fucking went in. You know what I mean? Just calm down, man. Just have a beer. Enjoy.
We said that last week. Hearts fans started the Cathro thing because they're desperate for the Cathro. They're desperate for Ron Gordon to be Romanov, without the tainted cups, presumably. But Hibs fans listen to them too much. Hibs fans listen to them too much. Stop worrying about what they're saying. They're just making shit up to wind you up, and you're being wound up, and then you're starting to repeat it. Shut the fuck up. Just ignore them.
There's a boy on Hibs, I saw this the other day, right? And it's funny how these things come around him when you clock it. Who, before Jack Ross was sacked, had posted that he'd heard Jack Ross had fallen out with Ron Gordon. Right? Posted it a couple of times. Another night posted said, well, there was a rumour, it's on here, Ron Gordon had fallen out with Jack Ross. The only person that I can remember seeing bringing it up.
I've only
was
seen
that
one person saying it.
And then they brought it back up again as if this was something that was buzzing about. It's like, you did it. Like, that would be like me going on the right saying...
John Hughes poured a glass of red wine over Rod Petrie, something like that.
Aye.
Big like that, isn't it?
Aye, that's it. Aye, Melkerson doesn't play because he booted Sean Maloney up the arse. And then in 3 months' time going, but mind, it was all the talk about it at the time is Melkerson had booted Sean Maloney up the arse.
People want to be right, don't they?
Scott
People
Allen
want
and
to be right.
Melkerson didn't get on because there's only one of them can look like Scott Allen in the dressing room.
Aye, there's only one mirror.
People want to be right about football. People want other people to think that they're either in the know or they know what they're talking about, and they want to, like, I know you're not on Twitter, Colin, but Twitter's really bad for it because people will put a tweet out saying something like, "Oh, there's something going on," or "Something's no right," and then months down the line, when something happens, they can then retweet it.
Absolutely.
And then be
Same
like,
with the message
"See,
boards.
fucking told
But
you so."
funnily enough, I was in Twitter discovering a wee look about the day, and somebody posted an old video. I've seen it before, but it was Harry Redknapp at a fans meeting with West Ham when he was the West Ham manager, and Lampard was sitting on the table. He's 17, I think, at the time, 18, and there was a fan saying he's shite, he shouldn't get near the team. There should be a boy called Scott Canham or somebody, or Matt Holland. Why you been in name but keeping him? And Redknapp's like, mate, you're talking shite. He's got to go right to the very fucking top. They're never going to get anywhere near his career. Who was right at the time, but that fan at the time, if Twitter was a thing or message boards were a thing at that time, which probably weren't, he would have been all over it, shouting for the rooftops about that. And what a cunt he made himself,
Right, next point, Eki McThump. Jake Doyle Hayes needs a boot. We lost because we can't take our chances. See, right. Doyle Hayes isn't it for me. Watch out. I think he's all right. I don't think he's what we need to now. I don't know whether it's just like a loss of form. Mind when he came in, the first couple of games, he looked brilliant. But I think he's all right. Like, I think he's terrible. But I just don't think he's... I think he's a driving force in midfield that you need, in either a defensive or an attacking sense.
Is this a slate? Is this a slate on Jake Doyle? I don't mean a slate, but is this talking about Jake Doyle Hayes as a whole, or is it?
It's not just
because what we talked about, but because what we talked about previously, as in
we're talking about Jake Doyle Hayes' soul.
but what I mean is going back to when Jake Doyle Hayes first came in. Did we like him because he was playing Jack Ross's style of football in a team that played a different style?
It was the same in the latter part of Jack Ross. So he was ill with COVID, if I remember, and he came back in. I don't think he ever really kind of recaptured his form after coming back into the team. Not that I'm saying that's kind of the reason for it, but either under Jack Ross or Maloney, I just don't think he's not lighting any fires under anybody. Do you know what I mean?
He might be one of the things he might be struggling with, and I'm maybe taking my speculation a wee bit too far here, but I remember in the Down the Slope interview that he did, where he talked about like some people, or he's been pegged as a sort of like ball winning midfielder, but actually his preferred position is playing a bit further up the pitch. He's not playing further up the pitch with Hibs. He's kind of playing a bit further back, and he's been asked to do the dirty work. And I wonder if his problem is a positional thing. And I don't know, like, could we chuck him in that Kyle McGuinness slot that we're missing a Kyle McGuinness in just now?
He doesn't shoot. He doesn't shoot though.
Well, that's true. He doesn't shoot.
Aye. Anyway, we're not going to tell you what it's that slot of players. He's all right. Like I'm not saying he's.
He did start off brightly, and he has tailed off a bit. And it'd be good to get Jake Doyle Hayes when he first came in the door back.
Aye.
But the midfield were a unit then. That midfield is a unit, and that's not that unit anymore because one person's out there, and we've never fixed that. That guy that played for 6 weeks, and we all went, "Fuck me, what a great signing he was!" Like a year after we signed him, and he's never been back. And it was 6 weeks. They're going, "This midfield works."
Yeah,
you've got Doyle Hayes, the engine. You'll can maybe pick a pass, and McGuinness will get in the box and score goals. Never worked since. Then we've had all they can play together, which they can because they have and they did, but it's not that. It's there's something missing in that midfield, and we've never looked to replace it for some reason, like I already said earlier.
Andrew Brown says, will we persist playing this formation with this group of players, or will Maloney realise something needs to change in order to start picking up results? John?
I would far rather we persevered with it for as long as possible and try and go through the hard stuff to actually develop the players, the system, everything about the club. I don't want. I hate this idea that it's all judged on what's happening right now. And don't get me wrong, like, understand that people are frustrated, and I was similarly frustrated and bored at the weekend for large parts of the game. But we're trying. I think Hibs and Maloney are trying to change the way that we play football, and it's going to take a little bit of time.
There's something about a coach's job, like a head coach, is to improve players and get them to do things that they didn't normally do. Do you know? So there is a good argument for that. Problem is, football managers didn't get that time, do they? Traditionally.
No, and as I say, like, I think if you place any value on the theory that I had way back at the 6 hours ago when we started the show,
Yesterday.
we're asking people for more time and more patience after what 4 or 5 years of things just being a bit shit and getting steadily shitter. But hopefully now we've reached the point where we can say, right, we're going to persevere with this and we're going to try and get better.
Last point, kind of touched this already. 150 game Hanlon Hill, strong Cathro vibes whenever Maloney gets a mic shoved in his face. I think we spoke about that already. So, just before we wrap up, we've got, is it Wednesday night we play Rangers through in Glasgow. The referee is Nick Walsh,
Nick the Prod Walsh,
who infamously kind of loves to send off Poaches. So I'm not going for score predictions, but we'll pick the minute that Poaches gets his red card.
I don't think he's going to get sent off.
No?
No.
Oh,
Right, what's your working, Colin?
It's too obvious. They're Snyder in that. It'll be a penalty or an offside goal chopped off or something, rather than for us. A penalty for them or a offside goal chopped off or something like that. They're sending Portuguese off against who was deja vu. So I think it's.
So do you think it's an opportunity? Do you think it's an opportunity for Portuguese to go out and 2-foot someone then?
Well, every week's an opportunity for Portuguese to go. But I think
every time he laces up his boots.
I think
Hibs have to go out and say, by the way, Hibs have to go out and make a point about the referee sending Portuguese off and make it difficult for the referee to give him a red card.
You would think Maloney would, because it's a very Celtic thing to do, and he was brought up for Celtic for years, wasn't he? So it's the kind of thing that he'll be used to happening. Look, they've done the thing. I don't even know what Boyd said about McGregor the other night, but they won the game. They've pumped him, and they're out moaning about
just that he Boyd should be targeted because he had a cheekbone fracture or something. They said
what he said was he was upset that Rangers hadn't tested out his face mask, which implied that somebody hadn't went in and scudded him to see if the face mask was living up to it. But then he came back out and says, no, I just wanted to see that Rangers players were getting close to him and
I would expect
wearing the mask and all that.
It's take out Rangers Celtic, see its Hearts, and they've got whoever their best player is now. Is it Barry McCann? I'm not sure who the best player is. If he's coming in half injured, a wee bit of sore knee or something, I'm thinking, I've said it before, they've got to give him a knock early doors and see if he fancies it.
Aye.
I think that's just standard chat, isn't it? But Celtic made a big deal. But anyway, we'll see, because I think we do need to make a fuss about it and point out, he sent him off the last twice, we disagreed on that one, blah, blah, blah. But the problem we've got is, of course, nobody disagreed with that red card apart from some Hibs fans. Everybody else thought it was a red card. So it's only us that's arguing it. So it'd be like, everybody, well, they fucking still moaning about that. Like, everybody knows it's a red card apart from the cunts. Because that's how it was in the end, wasn't it?
Aye,
it wasn't even all Hibs fans, because even some Hibs fans were saying it was a red card.
Yeah.
So
okay, well, we'll get some predictions then. Craig, how do you think the game's going to go?
I'm going to go a draw. I think it might be a 0-0 affair where both teams get chances and scudded off the bar and keepers have a decent game in that. I think they've came back and they've pumped hearts. And their fans will be expecting all more of the same, but I don't think they'll be able to keep up with it. And I don't know. I just think it's a draw.
No, no, Hibs. Right.
Aye.
John?
1-0 Hibs, James Scott, 89th minute winner.
Yes. Overhead kick for the halfway line. Over McGregor's head.
Over the diddle.
Hey, Colin?
1-0 Porteous for a corner.
Oh,
That would be
So
good.
it'll finish 0-0 and that goal will get chalked off.
That'll be the one that gets a handball, hit handball and Maradona at or something.
I'll go for 1-0 with Morelos on goal.
Uh-huh.
That'd
Aye.
be sweet.
Deflecting a Porteous shot in. Right. Just a couple of last things to wrap up with. We recorded the Heatbangers last night. I just want to say thanks to everybody who's got in touch post that episode for some brilliant messages. Great reaction to the show. So if you've not heard that, go back and have a wee listen. That's available on our YouTube and all the podcast players. We'll be back on Thursday with Short Bangers, so get your questions in. We are approaching episode 100 for that, so we'll do something special there. And I think next week's Long Bangers will go out on a different night, depending on however. Is that next week or the week after? We've got a good guest coming on. Anyway,
That's next week.
Next week. So it might not be Monday when it goes out, is what I'm saying. But it'll be worth the wait, is the other thing that I'm saying. So I would imagine it'll be worth the wait anyway. We're doing it. Of course it
It's
is.
not Frank Soze.
It's not Frank's.
Too expensive.
Yeah, we tried to
200
get
quid a
Frank on, but our budget didn't stretch it, unfortunately. But
He doesn't like Abernethy biscuits.
it looks like a great night, that one, the Harlan Stevenson one. They've done a great job in getting Soze over, and it looks like they've got a great night planned. I'm not sure if it's sold out yet, but it's for a great cause. So if you've got the money, go and get yourself a seat at the table. Anyway, right, that's us. You can find us, subscribe and all the rest of it. Tell other folk about it, all that kind of jazz. It helps us out. Until next time, we'll see you later.
County line, I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.